Elephant Cast on elections 2017. My name is Patrick Gathara and I'm a curator for the elephant.info publication. With me today is Dr. Noah Akala and Dr. Nyang'asi Oduwo, who are both representing NASA in the various audits that were ordered by the Supreme Court of Kenya. And they will help us essentially understand what the NASA case was and what the issues that they pointed out or they found out from the audits that were there, that were carried out to do with the election. So let's get into it. Yes. Dr. Akala, perhaps we could start with you. And you could let our readers understand what basically was the NASA case about this election.
Okay. When we went to the Supreme Court, we put it to the judges that the general elections 2017, especially the presidential election, was not conducted in a manner pursuant to the Constitution of the Republic and pursuant to the Election Amendment Laws 2016 that guide certain aspects of the election, which is why in his eventual ruling, the Chief Justice stated that an election is not an event, it's a process. So how did we get here? I'll take you back to the 2007 debacle. Following the Kriegler inquiry into the misdeeds of the election, recommendations were made to adopt ICT in the conduct of elections towards a free, fair, credible, and most importantly, verifiable electoral process. Meaning that if you count votes today, you should be able to count and get the same outcome next week, next month, 10 years from now. That's what verifiable means. So fast forward from 2007 to 2010, during the referendum process when ICT was first piloted, where they did a sample biometric voter registration exercise. Remember, that's when they first introduced the whole issue of biometrics. And a sample electronic voter identification when people actually went to cast their ballot on the day of the referendum. Take it further to 2012. Now when we were preparing for the 2013 general election, it was stated that this use of ICT would be standardized across the nation. Unfortunately, in that election, whether it was by design or through incompetence, we firmly believe that it was by design, ICT failed dramatically. The EVID kits did not work on election day. The excuse given was that some were not charged, users did not have appropriate time to be trained on the use of the kits, and so on and so forth. We felt that this compromised the quality of the election then. However, the Supreme Court that had the petition in 2013 was more focused on whether we could demonstrate new numbers as opposed to how was the process conducted.
And you never really got to present the meat of your case?
Because the 900-page affidavit was knocked out. Take it forward to 2017. As we were approaching, we asked ourselves, following the negative experiences in 2013, does it make sense for Kenyans to go into another election where the same old bad practices are just run over and over again? So we started thinking critically about the process of elections, and this is what inspired the Okoa Kenya movement. You remember one of the articles in that bill, the proposed Okoa Kenya bill, captured the reform of the IEBC. Now, some people may say that it was naive of us to expect the then IEBC, chaired by Issa Hassan, to preside over its own death. So we presented 1.6 million signatures collected from across the country.
And they knocked out a bunch of them.
And they only accepted 800,000, saying that the rest were invalid. And that's what led to the agitation that saw street demos in Nairobi, Kakamega, Mombasa, Narok, and other parts of the country.
If I may stop you there, just to ask. agitation that you speak about in,
Yes.
In 2016 was really about reforming the IEBC.
Yes.
Did that include reform of the electoral system, or are you identifying IEBC with the electoral system?
The Core Kenya proposed amendment bill had a whole raft of proposed changes,
Right.
which actually came to see the light of day through the Election Amendment Laws 2016.
Right.
So if I could just go back a bit, through that agitation, we got the commissioners out and paved way for the formation of a bipartisan committee to discuss about how elections will be conducted in Kenya.
Right.
It had representation from NAS CORD at that point in time and Jubilee. And they were supported by technical teams and consultants brought by Bunge.
Right.
And that's what gave birth to the election laws. And the election laws were controversially amended through the tyranny of numbers, but still maintained a large part of their integrity.
Right.
The election laws are given functionality through something called the regulations.
Right. These are IEBC regulations.
Regulations that guide the conduct of elections. And Section 10 of those regulations, available on the Kenya Law Reports, guides the use of ICT in elections. Because in 2017, ICT is a fundamental part of how elections are conducted. Now, which brings us to where we are today.
Right.
The IEBC did not conduct elections in compliance with Section 10 of the regulations.
Right.
Why do I say this? After the 8th, during that 4-5 day window prior to the declaration of results, Kenyans were treated to this mockery of the electoral process where there was a projection on a screen in the Bomas of Kenya and in various county tally centers across the country. And they were told, these are the election results. Something that was later disowned by the own commission that said those were not results, those were statistics. And their own lawyer, Nyamodi, in the Supreme Court said, my client calls them statistics, I call it data.
Right.
So the judges were asking, what were these things? And actually now that's the question that all Kenyans must begin to ask themselves. What was being beamed in the Bomas of Kenya on that projection? Because when held to account during those 5 days, the IEBC chairman admitted that he did not have all the forms, 34A, that are required to declare a president in the republic.
Right.
So where were these results coming from? Because if you understand how the Kenya Integrated Election Management System works, it has the EVID tablets, the KIEMS tablets.
Right.
You remember that thing where you put your finger,
on.
it recognizes you,
Right.
you get to vote. Later on, after counting and tallying, the elections officer, the presiding officer, is supposed to scan an image of the form, enter the results digitally, and then transmit them simultaneously to the National Tally Center and the Constituency Tally Center. You will recall in Maina Kiai versus IEBC 2016, the Court of Appeal ruled that results at polling station are final and are not subject to any amendment.
Right.
So, when we went to court, the crux of our case was based on two things. That the IEBC declared a president without results, without actual forms.
Without the forms.
So we asked the court to grant us orders for scrutiny. Scrutiny of the forms, which Dr. Nyang'asi is going to cover,
Right.
and scrutiny of the IEBC sub, which I'm going to discuss later on.
Okay, just before we get there, just to get the background for that discussion.
Yes.
Just take us through how the system was meant to work. According to the laws that you cited, my understanding is that specifies that results from polling stations are to be transmitted electronically.
Yes.
both to the constituency center
And the
national center.
Yes.
The IEBC argues that they have discretion with regard to the complementary mechanism, which is the manual transmission of forms. You know,
no.
When we're, yeah, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but so if you might just articulate what was actually meant to happen. You know, when they scan the forms and they are sent, is it the scanned form that matters, or is it the physical form that is thereafter delivered to constituency centers?
In a transparent election, the two should not be different.
Yeah. Yes.
The scanned form and the form that follows to the constituency and then later on to the national tally center are meant to be one and the same. And part of the reason why there was a secondary fail-safe, which was the digital entry of results, is to ensure that the results on the scanned form tally with this one. So already if there's a discrepancy, you know that there's an issue to be resolved. And that is what provided for. That is what the physical forms provide for the eventuality that there's a discrepancy.
Right.
So the process was that you scan the image, you transmit it. A form is meant to be posted outside the polling station, posted on top of the ballot box, a copy given to each of the political party or candidate representatives, and the presiding officer to follow that form to his constituency.
Right.
Yeah, that was the prescribed format.
Right.
And complementary, for your information, does not mean manual, and it's not prescribed in that way in the Act. It just says complementary.
Right.
So the complementary system, you'll recall, is that if each of your digits were failed to be recognized, you produce your ID, new generation ID. Remember, the old generation IDs were phased out.
Right.
That new generation ID has a barcode, and you'll recall that they would swipe it.
Right.
And it would recognize this as Patrick Gathara, registered voter, such and such a polling station, and so on and so on. That was the complementary.
But they also had a register, a
printed register with the image, where if you're recognized and the presiding officer identifies you in concurrence with the image, in the presence of the political party agents there, you then have to fill a form that is signed by the agents, and you're permitted to vote.
Yeah, that deals with who gets to vote.
Yes.
The big issue was
transmission of results,
and that's where my question is. You know, when you transmit results, the reason we had problems in 2007 and again in 2013 is that people taking forms from one location to another, those forms either disappear or they turn up, they've got whiteout on them, they've been changed, and stuff like this. And the reason why we specified, the Act specified that they're to be transmitted electronically is to avoid that. And that's why I go back to my understanding that we shouldn't really have been looking at physical forms, but at electronic forms. Perhaps you could deal with that.
There's one ruling, sorry, before you get into that was made by the Supreme Court regarding that issue of what do you deal with. And the ruling stated that in the event that there is a dispute in that form, it is only subject to change or scrutiny by a court of law.
Right.
So that result stands suspended or in abeyance, pending a decision of a court of law. If there is a dispute.
If there is a dispute.
And it's important to remember that the intention of all these fails is where if you keyed in a result, you'd have to send a scanned image. If you sent a scanned image, you'd have to come and physically deliver the same form physically. We're all meant to improve the overall integrity of the process, as we will show in the later discussion. That this actually did not enhance the process, it reduced the integrity of the process, and on top of that, it formed the basis upon which the Supreme Court dismissed, invalidated the election.